Your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock until midnight right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network. Now, if you'd like to give us a call, worldwide toll-free 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And, of course, if you'd like to listen to the X Zone 724 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Well, as you know, X Zone Nation, this past weekend was the Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, Ontario. And the X Zone was there. We were there with our digital broadcast company. We were doing the pay-per-view. And I must say that I had a wonderful time. Joanne and Heather, the two organizers of the expo, did a fascinating job. And I also had the chance of meeting and spending time with several of the keynote speakers that were in the grand ballroom. And I've got to tell you that it was just a thrill and a pleasant 3 days that we spent in Brantford doing the broadcast pay-per-view. I had a great time talking to Stanton Friedman for a number of hours. The guy is a legend. You know, here you've got the great-grandfather of ufology, the cornerstone of the UFO movement. God bless him, he's 82 years of age and still going strong. So, way to go, Stanton. Now, my first guest tonight was also at the Alien Cosmic Expo. His name is Kevin Estrelle, and he's from Hamilton. And first of all, Kevin, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I want you to tell our listeners about Pyramids on Mars.
Well, Pyramids on Mars, that is my musical project. That's my band. Pyramids on Mars is the epitome of everything I am musically and philosophically. My music is very similar to guitarist Joe Satriani. That I call myself the Satriani of the North. Actually, that's my that's how I describe myself.
That's your hook.
That's my hook. And I have radio play throughout Canada, the U.S., UK, Netherlands, Germany, Brazil, and I'm on countless radio stations and magazines all the time. Particularly Ryan the Hammer Jackson in Los Angeles. I'm on his show a lot.
Well, what I'd like to do for our listeners, if it's okay with you, Kevin, is give them a taste of your music. And X Zone Nation, this is Kevin Estrelle and Pyramids on Mars with a song that Kevin has done entitled Dream Division. All right, that just gives you a little bit of a taste of the great music that you can find at Kevin's website, you ready for this, X Zone Nation? pyramidsonmars.com. Kevin, what is the significance behind the name Pyramids on Mars?
Well, it goes a lot back to the philosophies that I've been going by and trying to educate the public with about what is going on here on Earth and the alternate reality that NASA has tried to create in regards to what's on the, what they say is on the moon and what's on Mars and what actually really is on the moon and what is on Mars. So I'm trying to educate people and kind of awaken people to the realities of our lives, and that aliens are here and have been here for a very long time and have had a great influence on our lives. And I've spent 20 years doing my own research, and so I've done my homework. I know what I'm talking about. And when I'm on radios, I tell people about, I tell them what it is, and people are really, they're amazed and they're really excited. And I just, love sharing this. So my music is completely tied into that too, because it's very spacey. I use a lot of analog keyboards that Rush and Pink Floyd used back in the 70s. So it sound has my music is very hard rock influenced, but it has a lot of influence of classical music with a lot of this, this spacey sound from those analog keyboards.
What is on the moon and what is on Mars?
Well, that's a good question. About 5 years ago, I heard this crazy, ideas about there being alien bases on the moon, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here they go again.
Yeah.
And so then I started to do my own research, and I was looking at things, and a lot of things I was finding on YouTube and stuff, and then all of a sudden they were showing these pictures of like airbrushed out stuff, and then all of a sudden I had a flashback. I was like, wait a second, no, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. And then I realized that when I was about 5 or 6 years old, it was about 1976, I used to go to my doctor's office, and he had this huge book on the moon. It was a picture book.
Yeah.
And I would go to it, and I'd pick it up and go through all the pages, and all the pictures that had with the astronauts were crystal clear, really good quality. But then as you got deeper into this book, and they had pictures of the craters and stuff like that, it was obvious that there was things that were blurred out, because they were all black and white pictures, but there was stuff that was blurred out. Now, I'm a kid, and I didn't know what airbrushing was, but I was smart enough to know that they were covering something up. And page after page after page after page after page of airbrushed out stuff. And I didn't know what was going on. I flipped the page over and see, what are they covering up? What is it that are covering up? And then, like 25 years later, I see the same images and realize, oh my God, it's all true. And of course, there's there's a lot of other stuff out there that people they have actually captured of things that are on the alien bases on the moon, and they've been able to get closer pictures of it. So they're up there.
Why do you think
they've been up there for a long time?
Why do you think there's a cover up? Why do you think that the truth is being suppressed?
I think it has a lot to do with fear. I think fear is ultimately what's controlling things. The U.S. government, the governments want to have control over this when they know damn well that they don't have control over it. But I think that they are trying to remain like pretend like they do have control over this because there's high technology that's involved, and anything can these alien propulsion systems can be used, as advanced weaponry, and it's who has a bigger stick. I think it has a lot to do with power control. I think.
Now, tell me, what's your first memory of what got you interested into the topic of aliens and UFOs?
Well, I think that was it when I was a kid, and I was first fascinated by the moon, and wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, and then I saw that book, and then I saw those pictures, and I didn't know what was going on at the time.
Right.
It just didn't make any sense. But then as I got older, into my teenage years, I had more of an interest in UFOs. And in high school, that's when I was introduced to a bunch of guys who were doing stuff, studying Bob Lazar's claims on his working, at Area 51. So then I really started to get interested in the subject. And then, throughout, when I was in other bands, when I was in my 20s, that's when X-Files came out, and I was really becoming more and more fascinated. And I did a lot of, my own research and, trying to get more information about what was going on. I read, Bud Hopkins' books. I read Communion. I read all that stuff, and was really, I really wanted to know more of what was going on.
Have you yourself ever had a first-hand experience?
Well, I finally did last year, and it was quite incredible. It was right here in Hamilton. It was August 21st, 10:30 p.m. because I live up on the mountain, basically where Upper James and the Link meet, and I was looking south towards, south on Upper James, that direction, towards the airport,
right,
and from the right side of my neighbor's tree came out of nowhere into view. At first, what I thought was a meteorite moving across the sky, because it was orange and red, and it seemed to be having this. It was like this trail covering it that was kind of streaming behind it, like this energy stream. It looked like it was on fire. I didn't know what the heck I was looking at.
Right.
But it was definitely disc shaped, and it moved across the sky. And I was like going, what the heck is this? What is this thing? It was maybe maybe a kilometer high, maybe a kilometer away, and it probably, from that, it must have been at least 40 or 50 feet in diameter. And it moved across the sky. And then as it was moving towards the Bimbrook, and then as it was moving away, it got darker in appearance and appeared to have this white vortex umbrella-like swirling mist coming, kind of covering it, which I thought maybe that was, what I was seeing. I didn't know what I was looking at. But after it disappeared, I was like thinking, "Oh my God, I think I just saw a UFO." And I got on the phone and called my wife and said, "I just think I saw a UFO." So I reported it. I reported it to MUFON, and I reported it to the UFO Reporting Center in Washington D.C. MUFON took a complete report on it, and I had waited to hear back from them, and I never did. So I didn't know what happened, but I'll tell you, it really affected me, because I had always hoped to see a UFO, and then when I finally did, I didn't know how to rationally grasp on the idea. I didn't believe it was a UFO. For 2 weeks, I struggled trying to figure out, there must be a rational explanation for what it was that I saw. There had to be some down-to-earth reasoning. But then the more and more I thought about what I saw, the more I realized there was more peculiar things about it. And the other thing that was so strange about it was that it was two-dimensional.
Two-dimensional.
Two-dimensional. That's right. And people ask me, what do you mean by that? Well, picture a solar eclipse.
Yeah.
That's two-dimensional. It's got height, it's got width, it has no depth. It looks like a hole in the sky. That's what this thing looked like. It was just disc-shaped, orange and red, no dimension. Nothing I've ever seen in a movie or in real life is two-dimensional. How do you explain that?
Good point. So, how did you feel when you were watching this UFO? Did you feel as if you were being contacted? Was there any? How did you feel? Here you are. You're up on Upper James and the Link. You're looking towards the airport. You see this thing in the sky. Bang! You realize it's a UFO. How did you feel?
Well, as I said, when I was looking at it, I didn't know what I was looking at, and I honestly didn't think I was looking at a UFO. I was too busy analyzing it, trying to understand what it was I was looking at, because the incident only lasted a total of maybe 2 minutes. If I had stepped out on my porch 2 minutes earlier or 2 minutes later, I would have never seen it. So as it came across the sky, I was just looking at it going like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? What is that thing? Because it was moving with the speed of a helicopter. It was moving really slow. And it was covered, and it's the way it looked. And honestly, for 2 weeks afterwards, I was upset. I was upset. It was hard to explain. It was like my world was broken. It's like, this is real. This is what am I looking at? What's happening? I couldn't grasp with it. I would have thought that if I saw a UFO, I'd be really excited. I wasn't. I didn't know how to react to it. It was life changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and it's rather strange. I just had one of my producers check the National UFO Reporting Center, and your sighting is not listed.
That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah,
that's what
strange.
I was going to get to. I went to the Alien Cosmic Convention, and I'll get to Grant's presentation in a second. Like oh my God, he's just absolutely amazing. But he's the reason why I went to the Alien Cosmic, because my wife told me about the Alien Cosmic, and then I looked it up and I looked at the schedule and saw that he was talking about musicians and UFOs and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's meant for me. I'm supposed to go to this.
Right.
And so that's why I went. But when I went there, one of the booths was MUFON, and I had my drawings with me because I drew the pictures.
Right.
I drew exactly what I saw, and I walked up to them. I didn't even say a word. I just put the pictures on the table. They turned around, looked at the pictures, looked up at me, and went, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. We're doing a presentation on you tomorrow." I'm like, "What? I haven't even heard from you guys." He says, "Yeah." He says, your case is one of the most authentic cases that we've had, and you were part of our presentation tomorrow. Glad you showed up." I'm like, "Really?" Well, I said, "I haven't heard from you guys. Like, how many other people saw it?" And he says, "That's the thing. You're the only one." And I'm like, "That's impossible." I'm in the Hamilton. I'm in the city of 500,000 people.
Right.
This thing was 40 or 50 feet in diameter. It was glowing. It was massive, and it was moving through the sky at 10:30 at night. It wasn't even that late. I can't be the only one who saw it. He says, "Well, sorry, buddy, but no one else reported it." So I'm really freaked out now. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This just doesn't make any sense. And so then I went up to Grant, and I handed him my CD, and he was really excited to see me and stuff. And and then we had a chance to meet, have lunch, and I was telling him. He said, "Yeah, I saw the presentation from MUFON, and they showed your photos, and they were looking for you." I was like, "I know I couldn't make it. I was only able to afford to go to two shows." And so we would go and sit down and have lunch, and I told him, "Look, this is what MUFON said." He said, they said I'm the only person who saw this thing. And you know what he said?
No.
This is what he said. He says, "You know what? That is not uncommon." He says, the same thing happened to John Lennon. When John Lennon saw his UFO, it was like everybody in the city was shut down. There was no lights on in the apartments below him or around, and he was yelling at everybody, trying to get everybody's attention, and he couldn't find anybody. Nobody was around. And even his wife at the time said she used the excuse that everybody was down at this club, whatever, this famous club, and that's where they were that night because it was Friday night. But after I think they had a chance to re-interview, and she said, "Yeah, I know, it doesn't make any sense." So what Grant was telling me was that it's not uncommon where people are being chased down a highway by a UFO, and they're flying at not 100 miles an hour trying to get away from this thing. And then when they're asked questions about the highways, this highway, were there any other cars? And like, well, no, there wasn't. He says, "Is this a busy highway normally?" He says, "Yeah, there's always cars on this highway." He says, "Don't you think it's kind of strange that you were the only one?" And for what Grant is saying is that these extraterrestrials have the ability of being able to shut people down, or they're able to shut people down, and so only one person can experience it. But the other thing that you talked about, and so I'm getting back to about his presentation, was the connection between ufology and neurology, and that the aliens, the extraterrestrials, are trying to help us get to a higher level of consciousness. And all these downloads that are happening to people, and the explanation of how savants can do all these multiple crazy calculations without having like the answers just come to them, or how all these are like Einstein and Steve Jobs contribute a lot of their inventions to using LSD or something like that.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Why do you think there is such a vast difference in what Grant Cameron is saying compared to what the established scientific community and medical community and your neuroscience community is saying? Like, there's really no connection. And I listened to Grant's presentation, and I had a hard time trying to make the connection between the established sciences and what he's saying. Why do you think that is?
I think that our consciousness is there's so much more to our consciousness that we're only using a small portion of our brains, and a lot of it has to do with our left, analytical, rational side that tries to take over the establishment, and
Right.
the right brain, where it's connected to the one and all, and oneness, and everything is one. And that's where ESP comes through. That's where precognition comes through. That's where downloads come through. That's where the finite, the infinite universe comes from. Is the right brain, the creative side, the part that cannot speak.
If the hypothesis that is put out by Grant Cameron is correct, how come more and more people aren't coming forward with these download revelations, as well as these sightings? Like when you check the archives and you check the internet for August 31st, 2014, there is not one UFO sighting. And like you say, city of Hamilton, 500,000 people. You've got the airport up on the mountain. You've got Toronto Pearson International. You have Buffalo. You have Niagara Falls. No anomalies tracked on radar. Transport Canada, no anomalies tracked on radar. How do we explain this?
I wish I could explain it. I mean, why is it that I'm the only person who saw this thing? Because I know that I saw it.
Right.
And I think it, from what I believe, it has to do with consciousness. I mean, my music, I've strived my entire life to create music that is a complete flow of from conscious, from basically the right side of the brain. And I've been compared to guitar players like David Gilmour, who's one of the most emotional players out there, and that's what I strive for, is complete, total emotion and utter, oneness with God. Hendrix too. He's my top favorite guitar player too, and he was connected to the universe, and he actually was had UFO experiences. I think that perhaps these aliens want me to be a spokesperson for them somehow, and they chose me to see this thing.
All right.
That's the only thing I could...
Okay, but have you? We're talking nearly a year ago. Have you had any connection with them since then?
No, nothing. I keep going out on the porch hoping I'll see that again.
Yeah.
I haven't had anything.
If they wanted you to be a spokesperson for them, wouldn't there be more than a sighting? Wouldn't there be some telepathic communication? Wouldn't you have the evidence of a download? Like, you were a musician before you saw this thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking you because I find it interesting, and if I wanted somebody to be my spokesperson, I wouldn't wait nearly a year before I get back to them.
I know. I can't. I'm still trying to put all the pieces together, and I think what I'm going to do is, I met with a lot of hypnotists at the convention, and I'm going to be meeting with a couple of them and go under and see if there's something more that I should, that's been repressed with me, because I honestly feel like I've been, I've always felt like an outsider, and I've been on a quest and a path as like a, we call it like a pioneer,
right?
And now that this, it's like they think, like as Grant Cameron has put it, the aliens want us to believe, but just a little bit. So they leave little breadcrumbs, here and there, just leaving a little bit of evidence for you to try and look around and see who left this here. And after I found out that that I was the only person to see this thing, I got to find out why. There has to be a reason for it.
Has there been any change in your life that you can say, all right, I had this sighting August 31st, 2014, and since then something has changed in my life that I can't attribute to anything else except what I saw, because I believe that the occupants of whatever this was I saw, this UFO, want me to be their spokesman?
I think what's changed a lot in the last year or so has been my dedication to me promoting my music and getting it out there and getting myself out there and talking to people about it. and talking about my experiences. And that's what I do when I'm on the radio. I talk as much about my experiences as I do about my music. Mostly because I want people to know me. I want people to connect with me. Not this some musician, but I'm a real person who's got these strange things that are happening with him. So I put absolutely all my energies in the last year into my music to get my new CD out, and I'm really hoping that I think this is going to be my breakout CD, my new CD, Echo Cosmic. It's a great it's amazing.
Sure. Okay, now, but tell me, when you're talking to people and you tell them about your UFO experience and what you believe, how do they react?
Most of them are very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know more, and the things that I start telling them about things about the moon or about Mars, they're just floored, like they just didn't know, they didn't have any idea. Or I start talking about the rings of Saturn, or the anomalies of Saturn. They get they're really curious about that too. There's just so much that's out there that we're touching base on and trying to understand. People need to to awaken and realize that it's okay to step out of your comfort zone. It's okay because they're here, and it's for us to understand what is going on and try and get an understanding for the larger picture.
Why don't they make themselves known once and for all? What are they hiding from? Because if they have anything but benevolent reasons for coming to this planet, whether it's to watch us or whether it's to help us or whether it's to bring us to a higher level of consciousness, why do they hide behind the anonymity? Why not come forward? Why not say, we are here, this is why we are here?
Well, I had some good talks with several people at the convention.
No. I don't want to hear what they said. I want to hear what you say.
What I
think? What you believe.
I think it's a lot of what they were saying too. It's what I believe too. I believe that they are trying to help us on a spiritual journey, trying to get us to reach a higher level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But they seem to not have any care about how long it takes. It's not like they're on a timeline. They don't. I think maybe their concept of time is different than ours, but that they're helping us slowly awaken our consciousness to higher levels of consciousness. I think that might be it. And I don't think you can do it through force. I think it has to be done through everybody's own awakening. You can't, just land on the White House and say, okay, we're here to teach you this.
Why not?
Or trying to help you with this.
Why not? Doesn't it seem strange that they're doing this all in a covert method instead of just coming up forward?
It's kind of like the same thing. It's kind of like the same thing like Jesus did that. That's what happened to Jesus. He came, what did they do? They crucified him.
Yeah, but Jesus was out there. Jesus was out there. He went and made himself in front of the people. He wasn't afraid to let the people know what he was talking about. He wasn't afraid to let anyone who would listen to him talk about God, and saving yourself. He was front and center. But when it comes to these extraterrestrials, they always do everything in a covert method. And this is my greatest concern, because they are not front and center. They are doing everything behind the scenes. And in my, it just doesn't seem logical that they would want to do everything that is positive for humanity and for the world and stay back.
Underground?
Underground on other planets that monitor us, whatever the case. Why not just face us and say, we have been here for thousands of years. You're right, Earthlings. We have been here. You're right, Earthlings. We are the lights in the sky. This is why we have been doing it. Bang. I've heard the reason being that religion would cease to exist. Society would go into turmoil. And I don't think we're giving ourselves enough credit as a human race if this is what we really think. I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit, and when we as a human race do something that even shocks us, well, God, it's got to be the extraterrestrials. We can't do this. It's just like the stories about reverse engineering. If, in fact, reverse engineering is real, how come we're still using solid rocket propulsion to go to Mars? There's so many things that just don't add up. In my mind, that's my opinion. But I wasn't with you, Kevin, the night that you had your sighting. I don't doubt you that you saw something. I really don't. I want to be a believer. I want to believe so bad. However, in order for me to believe, I want to see the proof. I'm just not going to take the word of the masses. I want to see the proof. Does that make sense?
No, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I wish I had better answers.
Yeah. Well, it's we're all seeking answers. I don't think there's one person on the face of the earth who at one time or another seeks answers. A lot of people seek their answers in different religions. Gosh, I know so many people who go from religion to religion to religion to religion because they can't find the answer that they're searching for. And I don't think it's right that people should have to go through this much turmoil to find answers if there are those with the knowledge, and I'm talking about the ETs, who have the knowledge to finally give these people on this planet the answers we're looking for. For example, if you're an advanced race, can't you help us with the climate problem? Can't you help us with the sicknesses that are killing people of this planet? Can you help us come up with a way to feed everyone? You must have this knowledge if you can traverse time and space. But yet, they don't. And you mentioned Jesus before. Jesus fed the multitudes. In other religious philosophies, the prophets go out of their way to help people, to give them the answers they're looking for. And yet, when it comes to the extraterrestrial connection, answers are very sparse. This is my concern. Like, why? If you're there, say hello. Work with us. Instead of putting so many people in doubt of their own sanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've listened to Grant a number of times. He's entitled his opinion. I've been doing this show a number of years. I've had the pleasure of talking to many people over the years. And they too are seeking answers. They don't have the answers. They are seeking the answers. One of the most convincing speakers I've ever heard is Stanton Friedman. This guy takes you from A to Z. He doesn't skip any of the alphabet getting you there. And basically he says, I'm not going to force feed you. Make your own conclusions based on the information. And there's so many people with so many stories that it's hard not to say there's nothing out there. There's nothing to these stories. I want to know what's out there. I want to know what's at the end of the story. I can hear the passion in your music. And thank you very much for sending us those 2 tracks. They're wonderful.
Thank you.
I can tell by what I've read about you, your passion in music. And I have no doubt you're going to be a superstar. I really have no doubt whatsoever. I too want to know what's out there. I too want to know, is there more? Are we alone? There's so many people using so many methods to find the same answer. Something's got to give somewhere.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've met a lot of people who've had close encounters, and I've met many of them, and I met even more over the weekend.
Yeah.
And we're all searching answers.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? Another point of contention with me is that the UFO community, the different organizations, the different groups, they do not share the information. And to me, that is so stupid. Everybody wants to find the smoking gun. Do it together because you're doing it for the same cause. Share the information. Peter Davenport at the National UFO Reporting Center, he puts his information for everyone to see. God bless Peter. I love the guy. He's been doing this for years, and everything comes out of his pocket. He finances it. But he shares it. All the information you want to know about UFO sightings, all you have to do is go to the the National UFO Reporting Center, and it's there. The guy is trying to make a positive difference. But when you speak to people like Stu Bundy at MUFON of Canada, and you talk to other organizations, they don't share the information. And I can't understand this. Law enforcement, as I'm sure that everyone knows, in the United States, they have NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. And here in Canada, we have CPIC, the Canadian Police Information Center. First of all, CPIC and NCIC talk to each other. Every law enforcement agency in Canada and the United States feeds their information into either CPIC or NCIC. Interpol has access to these data banks. And other countries in the world also give Interpol access to their data banks because they're all working on the same thing. They're all working to catch bad guys or whatever the case may be. Yeah, and yet, solve crimes. There's another good reason. But yet, when it comes to the UFO community, everybody wants to work on their own. And if there was a correlation of all the different UFO authors, all the UFO researchers, everybody's got their own theory. Everybody has a different reason for Roswell or for Socorro or whatever the case may be, Shag Harbor up here in Canada. Everybody has their own idea, their own belief, their own research. If the UFO phenomenon was as, how can I say this? As real.
Transparent?
Well, yeah, transparent, that's a good one. If the UFO phenomenon was as real as people say it is, wouldn't there be a level of consistency in all the different books, all the different DVDs, instead of all the different hypotheses?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet here you...
more organized.
Yeah.
More science. It was treated more like a science.
Exactly. When you have the director of a part of MUFON who sends out a press release saying that he knows why Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 has not been found is because it was abducted by a mothership and that the aircraft and all the crew were taken away, abducted by a UFO. That didn't even go good within the UFO community. But with these claims that just pop out of nowhere, and with all the false flags that the UFO community itself has given to mainstream media, what do you expect mainstream media to do when somebody says, hey, listen, I know what I saw. And I'm not talking about you here. I am not talking about you here, Kevin. This is what I saw. And it's not taken seriously anymore because they've been burned so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then here you come along, and the sincerity you're talking in your voice, I can only imagine how frustrated you are.
I think what frustrated me so much was I never heard from MUFON again. And here they were doing a presentation on me.
That is 100% wrong. That, my friend, I find inexcusable. How did you feel when you found out that even though they hadn't contacted you, they're using the information that you gave them as part of the presentation?
Actually.
Pardon?
A little bamboozled. You know, especially when they said it was one of the more authentic cases they had. Well, it'd be nice if you had told me that.
Right.
Like, you didn't even bother to contact me. Because I've been sitting around for a year thinking I'm going crazy. And I'd go on, you know, I'd do my own research and, you know, type in UFOs and type in that date, and there's nothing. It's like, okay, there's nothing. Nobody else has reported anything. And nobody's come back to me. It's like, okay, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else see it? It's like I had no idea. No idea that I was the only one who saw it. No idea. And it still doesn't make any sense.
Did you listen to the talk that MUFON gave on your sighting?
No, I didn't, because as I said, like, I was only able to afford to go to two presentations.
You mean that MUFON would not even invite you in to listen to the presentation that you had supplied them?
No. I wasn't really invited, no.
Well, wait. You know, here you've got the guy, and apparently the people at MUFON were excited because you were there. They told you that this was, how did they phrase it? A very credible case?
Yeah, credible case, yeah.
And here you are, the person who saw the UFO, who supplied...
I wasn't invited to attend, no.
And here you are there in Brantford, we're in Hamilton, 20 minutes down the highway. See, this is what bamboozles me about the UFO community. It's not the experiencer like you. My heart goes out to you guys. It's the organizations that everyone puts their trust in who lets them down.
Yeah.
Listen, my friend, you and I got to take a commercial break. We're going to be back in about 2 minutes. When I come back, Exonation, I'm going to play a super song. This is Kevin Estrelle's song that he sent to us that we're going to be playing. It's called Battle for Rome. Now, for all the great information on Kevin and how you can get a copy of all his music, his website is www.pyramidsonmars.com. That's www.pyramidsonmars.com. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight right here on the Starcom Radio Network. And if you want to listen to radio at its best, listen to my good buddy Ed Till. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. right here on the Starcom Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Florida drug dealer made a serious mistake when he dared peddle his poisons on the schoolyard of Robert W. Morgan's preteen daughter. Morgan, a budding film director, tracked him to his hidden Everglades lair where his meth lab mysteriously blew sky high. When Morgan's demands to police to make grammar school playgrounds safer from drugs were ignored, he sought the counsel of CIA operative Frank Sturgis. Again, he was warned to give up what was becoming an obsession. Instead, Robert used his reputation as a filmmaker to infiltrate the mafia by stroking their egos and offering to make films for them offshore so they could import them as foreign product without paying taxes. When they agreed to build him a studio in Panama, Robert called the DEA and FBI and offered to work undercover. In time, their combined efforts revealed how the mob was secretly laundering billions of dollars through the Vatican Bank in Rome before returning to the States as foreign investments. Now read Morgan's story, Citizen Spy, Vatican Cover-Up, The Mob, Money Laundering, and Murder, available at Amazon.com bn.com, bn.com, and borders.com. Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahir O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at kahiraodonnell.com or amazon.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus that's now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to The Battle of Rome, composed and played by my guest this hour, Kevin Estrelle, from right here in Hamilton. His website is www.pyramidsonmars.com. Love your music, man. You get right to the meat of it.
Thank you.
After attending the Alien Cosmic Convention, Kevin, did you take anything away with you from the experience and the speakers you met and the people you met?
I think I got a lot of answers, things that I felt that I was striving towards, especially with Grant's presentation on neurology and ufology, and I reached a point of enlightenment. I remember exactly the moment where I reached my point of enlightenment, and I've been striving to get to that, keep at that level of consciousness, or strive towards that AD of enlightenment all my life. And that moment was back when I was in university, and I was listening to Jimi Hendrix live at Monterey, and it was at the moment of the solo, the guitar solo of Foxy Lady, and I was air guitaring, and all of a sudden I hit this moment of absolute complete oneness with the universe. It's so hard to describe. I hit it, and I felt it, and it was like everything became one. And that's what I realized. That's what I wanted to. That's where I wanted to be. That's the state of mind I wanted to be in. So I've always strived for that in my music to reach for that same plateau, and that's where I go with my music. I mean, Hendrix was beyond anything that nobody else was doing, and like my spirit resonates with what he's doing. And from what Grant's been talking about this level of consciousness rising in people, it makes sense to me, and I'm going to continue to do it. And to talk about the relationship between musicians and UFOs and aliens made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And I can relate to it, obviously, for my own experiences. Sure. And I'm starting to become one of these guys. I think I always have been, actually. So now I have a lot of answers, but I also have a lot of questions. I walked away and found out that nobody else saw what I saw.
Right.
Now I got to find out. Okay, maybe there's more I need to do. Maybe I need to do some more homework. Maybe I need to go under hypnotic regression. Maybe there's more that I'm blocking. I don't know.
How has your newfound consciousness, this new revelation that you attribute to listening to
Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix, how has this affected your personal religious philosophy, your personal religious beliefs?
I'm a devout Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I actually there actually was a period of darkness between 2000 and 2010 where I stopped going to church and stopped believing, and
right.
It was probably the most darkest point of my spiritual being, and I blamed God for everything that was going bad in my life and the breakup of my band and stuff, and I lost touch with my music, and I couldn't even feel the guitar anymore. But then I went back to church, mm-hmm. and it wasn't instantaneous, but after a period of 6 weeks, I let Jesus back into my heart. And, I had spent years reading books about how to get inspiration, how to write music,
right,
and find inspiration. And Jesus gave it back to me instantaneously like that. And that's when I started writing my first Pyramids on Mars songs, and I haven't stopped. And my creativity has never been better in my entire life, and I thank Christ for that.
And I believe it's just going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
Kevin, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can get your music.
You can find my music. You can listen to my music all at www.pyramidsonmars.com. I just released my new CD, Echo Cosmic. You can listen to it right there. You can pick it up. In fact, I just released it. It's on a pre-release right now. I dropped the price. You can pick it up, the whole CD, for only $6.99. It's a steal, but never mind the price. It's priceless. This is the best instrumental rock album that's going to come out in 2015.
All right, man.
If you like Saturnian vibe, but like a heavier, like Metallica, mm-hmm. That's where you're going to find it.
All right, Kevin, take care of yourself. Thanks very much for sharing with us tonight here on the X Zone. X Zone Nation, Kevin Estrelle has been my guest this hour. www.pyramidsonmars.com. I'll be back on the other side of the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and heard around the world on the Starcom Radio Network. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
In the world today, most people want what is called the American dream. They want love, a family, a fancy car, and a nice home in a nice neighborhood. They also want a good job and money to travel to interesting places. Life is great because they have the American dream. But what happens to this dream if they hear they have a devastating illness like lung cancer? The doctor may tell them they need treatment immediately or they will be dead in 6 months. He tells them you need surgery and then you need chemotherapy to get better. When they get home, they think of many unanswered questions. They ask themselves, will I survive when so many of my friends with cancer have died? How will I deal with the pain, hair loss, nausea and vomiting, sore mouth and other side effects of chemotherapy and pain of surgery? Will I be able to keep on working? What will happen to my family? Then they look at the internet and wonder, is there a better way to deal with lung cancer and return to my American dream? Carl Helvey can tell you yes, there is a better way. Carl Helvey is a registered nurse with a doctorate in public health and a 38-year lung cancer survivor. Carl was given 6 months to live when diagnosed, and he refused chemotherapy and surgery. Carl used alternative interventions. Those not only helped him overcome lung cancer, but also to remain cancer-free and healthy for over the past 36 years since recovery. In his book, You Can Beat Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions, Dr. Helvey will tell you his story of using all-natural treatments for lung cancer and continuing to work during his treatment. Free of pain and discomfort, Carl will also share how he remained cancer and disease-free since then without chronic illnesses or prescribed medications. His story is supplemented with chapters by Dr. Bernie Siegel, Dr. Francesco Contreras, and Dr. James Forsyth, alternative integrative physicians, and Dr. Kim Dalzell and Tanya Harder-Pierce, health professionals. All have successfully helped others overcome cancer. Research presented by the alternative physicians on their treatments for lung cancer demonstrate a significantly higher long-term survival rate for lung cancer clients than those obtained by conventional doctors. In addition, their clients were free of or had reduced side effects. You Can Beat Lung Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions by Dr. Carl Helvey is now available at all major book outlets and at www.beatlungcancer.net. That's www.beatlungcancer.net. This information may help you return to the American dream.